got to play together. It was more against each other in practice. Moving on to my freshman year, we had a new coach, Ron Weber. He's here today, and I know he was pretty young coming in, and I'm sure he was pretty excited. We had a lot of talent coming back. I know we were excited. Again, our fires were lit. We had one state championship. Let's go get another one. Jefferson was favored to win the state tournament that year with Fred Tibbetts, and I remember in the semifinals we won in overtime, and that was pretty special because I think Jefferson was already planning their celebration, so that was kind of fun to squash that dream. And then we ended up winning it all that year. Then we graduated our point guard, so my sophomore year, we maybe had a spot to fill for the point guard position, and Jody Pipes lived 25 miles away, and her family moved to Armour. I think they saw an opportunity as well, and so she kind of filled a gap. Again, things just fell into place at Armour. Just had the right mix of people. We worked hard, loved to go to the gym, and that sophomore year we won the state tournament again. And the next 2 years, my junior and senior year, of course, what are you gonna do? You're gonna go win the state tournament. We're not gonna quit now. So we had a lot of talent in Armour at that time, and the thing you gotta understand about Armour is that we did everything together, from swim team when we were young, and when I say we, I mean my basketball teammates, because we did everything together. When we were younger, we were on the swim team together. We played softball in the summers together. We ran track together, went to open gyms together, and I think you could really tell that out on the basketball floor, that we all had a lot of chemistry, and you could tell that, because I've watched a lot of basketball in my day, and I can see when teams just don't have that chemistry. And we didn't ever have anybody that was out for themselves. What can I get? You know, how many points can I score? You know, what can I do? It was all about the team. And I feel like I was very fortunate. My senior year, it was time for me to choose a college, and the decision was very easy. The last couple years of my high school career, we spent a lot of time going to Augie games because my sister played basketball there, and I just got used to that community and knew that Augie was a place that I wanted to be. I didn't do a lot of looking around. I just knew that I wanted my parents to be able to really enjoy the basketball as I went into college too, and it was close enough to Armour, and it ended up to be a good fit. And looking back, I think I chose Augustana because it was a lot like Armour. It was a small community, a close-knit community. Everybody knew each other. Everybody rooted for each other. I have a daughter that goes there now, and when I go back for the Augie games, there's still the same people there, and you know, they recognize you. Hey, how's it going? And it's just like I never left. And it was just a few years ago that I did. But so it's good to be back in that community. Very, very much similar to Armour. So sports have been a huge part of my life. Growing up and raising my own kids, I've seen enough to know that the experiences that I had in Armour and at Augustana are not the norm. Having teams that get along well and that work well together and that always have each other's backs, that's not something that just happens without a lot of work. I've been blessed to be a part of a community that provided me with support and opportunities like no other, and for that I am truly grateful. Had I grown up anywhere else, I may not have ended up right here on this stage where I am today. I feel like the start was in Armour. It just, everything, all the pieces fell together. I feel like I was very lucky. These types of situations, Hall of Fame banquets, things where I'm singled out always make me a little bit uncomfortable because I feel like I shouldn't be up here alone. I truly feel like I was lucky enough to be in the right place at the right time twice, both when I went to Armour and then again when I chose Augustana College. And so in conclusion, I want to thank everyone who was part of this journey with me, from my coaches, to my teammates, to my friends, to my family, and to the communities of Armour and Augustana College. Thank you.
Thank you, Dana. It's funny how things are in small towns. At Armour, they had the open gym policy. And of course, at Lenox High School, we had the open library policy. And that's why we had so many successful Rhodes Scholars, and et cetera. Our next candidate, or inductee rather, is Flaagen, and Ron Reichert is his presenter.
Cross-country kids are the salt of the earth. They understand what it's like to work hard.
Flaagen. Flaagen is a 1968 Mayville, North Dakota high school grad and a 1977 UND Fighting Sioux alum who guided the Rapid City Stevens cross-country program to unparalleled success. He was the head Raiders cross-country coach and track and field distance coach from 1988 to 2010. In that time, Stevens won 19 state cross-country titles, 9 girls, 10 boys. The boys' titles were all in a row, from 95 to 2004, while 8 of the girls' titles were in a row. Those title streaks are by far the best in state history in cross-country. As a track assistant at Stevens, Flaagen was part of 7 boys and 15 girls state title teams. He got his start coaching in Spearfish as an assistant junior high boys track coach for 2 years before becoming the head cross-country coach and assistant track coach from 1979 to 1985. He guided the Spartans to a state cross-country title in 1983 and again in '84. Flaagen was the National Girls Cross-Country Coach of the Year in 1999 and a finalist for the Boys Award in 2000 and 2003.
Once again, I'm going to take a minute and thank the folks here for putting this together, doing all this. But first of all, I and all of you need to be thankful to Marilyn, the pretty lady with me here, for helping me get presentable. You saw some of those pictures there. And honestly, I was a hell of a lot more comfortable there than I am here. My introduction to sports, my dad was a coach, pretty successful one, and he was a basketball referee. And when I was a little kid, 4, 5, 6 years old, my dad would load me up in the 53 Pontiac, and we'd drive over to Fort Totten and pick up Milo Buffalo, my dad's reffing partner. And we'd go over and they'd get their ref clothes on. Dad would set me on the end of the bench and have the scorekeeper keep an eye on me. And then after the game, we'd hop back in the car. We'd swing by the local package store and pick up a 6-pack. Dad would put it on my lap, and it was my job to make sure that he and Milo had their beers on the way home to talk about how the game went. So that was my introduction to sports, and and I kind of carried a little bit of that attitude myself. Anyways, I always tell people that my mom was Irish and my dad was Norwegian, and all that means is that I had an ego, but I didn't know what the hell to do with it. But I have to say they supported me and taught me. But left the coaching to my coaches. My 7 siblings, I got 4 sisters and 3 brothers, and we made everything competitive. And win, lose, draw, you always play to the end. And that was kind of the other part of things that I took to my own sports and to my coaching. I think you heard on there, or you saw in the program, I never saw a cross-country meet till the first one I coached. So I knew I'd played football, played basketball, ran track, but had no idea what the heck I was getting myself into when they came and asked me to be the head cross-country coach. Although they did tell me they were going to cut the program in 2 years, so there's no pressure. And 2 years later, they did. And I had some folks show up at the board meeting and change their mind. I also have to say my daughters, Allie and Jolene, they're not here tonight, but I also have to thank them for keeping me anchored, because several different times they asked me, Dad, when do we get to be one of your kids? And that kept me pretty well grounded. And I did my best to support and teach them as my parents did me, but I tried to leave the coaching to their coaches. And I thank Allie for bringing my wonderful son-in-law Bosco into my life, and along with their gals, Sophia and Mila. And my daughter Jolene, who was fortunate enough to play for Ron in high school, for bringing Sonia and Kat and their energy into my life. I need to thank the folks from Spearfish High School for giving me the opportunity to discover an ability in myself that I never knew I had. I'd gotten away from sports. I went to college a couple years and then dropped out and worked construction for a few years and then went back to college. But had never had any idea that I'd ever be a coach. And then I took a little bit of a hiatus there and was a contract carpenter in Spearfish. And then one day I was working on a scaffold, putting siding on a townhouse, and a voice behind me says, "Hey, you know what the heck you doing up there?" And I turned around and it was Kenny Lindstrom, the cross-country and track coach from Stevens High School. And he said, "Come on down here, you guys, it's lunchtime, I need to talk to Forey." And he asked me if I'd care to be his distance coach, because his distance coach had to retire. And we'd competed against each other while I was coaching at Spearfish. Well, then Dwayne Whalen stepped in and kind of came out of his comfort zone and took a chance on hiring me, somebody that sure as heck didn't fit his mold for what a coach should be. But fortunately, I had that opportunity. And I also need to thank some track coaches head track coaches that I worked with. Dwayne Tordoff at Spearfish, Kenny Lindstrom for that one season at Stevens, Lemoyne Trout, who was one of my very dear friends, and Paul Hendry, who was my neighbor for a while actually. They put up with me and they allowed me to become involved in what the big picture of track and field really is. I'd like to take a minute to thank the coaches that I competed with for openly sharing with me their knowledge, but most importantly, their love and passion for the sport. And not just cross country, but for all sports. I've worked with some wonderful people, and when I say with some wonderful people, I mean coaches that I competed with. My late friend, Dave Scott, who really did a lot for me, just tremendous. But I also want to take a minute. I want to take a minute and introduce somebody here. He's going to be pissed at me for having him stand up, but Doc, you want to stand up for a minute, please? Not even a minute, just a couple seconds. Now, I'm not going to let him talk. But Doc and I worked together for about 24 years at Stevens, and we spent a lot of time laughing our way through many years. And I often think that without Doc translating, the kids might not have learned a whole heck of a lot, because I'd get talking and words would get mixed up, thoughts would get mixed up, and then I'd get done and Doc would get up and then he'd kind of straighten everything out. I always thought he was repeating what I said until I realized it was making sense. My kids, or athletes, if you will, more than any championship, I'm probably most proud of the autonomy that my athletes learned and earned. The sense of responsibility to the team that brings reward to them. My seniors earned the pedestal that I put them on and the privilege of leadership. And I always thought that leadership is a privilege. It's not something you're handed. You have to earn it, and you have to understand what it's for. And I'm also very thankful for the years that the kids spent teaching me of their differences, their hopes, and their dreams. Where'd page 4 go? Oh, here it is. Okay, all this comes from one simple, for some, but hard to grasp concept for others. Gotcha, Jerry. The most important person on this team is the one standing next to you. And those of you that have been athletes in any sport, even something like rodeo, where a lot of people think, well, you're just out there doing it by yourself. No, you're not. Even if you're competing with somebody, that's the most important person to you, because watching them and learning from them and playing for them, no matter what it is, the most important person is the person standing next to you. You have to respect and value that person, whether you're a coach, whether you're an athlete, or whether you're a parent. You have to understand that the most important person is the person standing next to you. Lastly, through the last part of my coaching career and now continuing on since I've retired, I've had some really wonderful support from some well-known coaches for their encouragement and getting me involved with the National High School Athletic Coaches Association. I definitely need to thank, even though Jerry's going to make me sit down in a minute, Jerry Miller, Verge Polak, Wayne Carney, Max Hawk, Dave Dolan, Ken Bruckner, and Bill Weber, who are all part of the National High School Coaches Association. They've gotten me involved, and they've widened my world and opened my eyes to so many opportunities that I never thought I would ever have. It's just amazing. A couple real quick things, Jerry, I'll get this done fast, honestly. I've always lived by three very, very simple sayings, or quotes, if you will. Know your heart, let it beat free, and follow it as you will. Okay? I've always been a little bit tight sometimes, but I've always been a bit of free spirit. And I've enjoyed that, and I'm so happy that I passed it on to my athletes. And another one is a prayer that my team